Hi everyone, and welcome to Our Philippine Life. I'm Todd.
And I'm Leilani. And this is Murphy.
And that's Murphy, and Hazel's at work. Leilani is home with me today because she's got a cough. So hopefully you'll be feeling better today.
Yeah.
I've got a cough too. I think I got it from her.
Yeah.
But so we're both home today. And today is a special day. We are inaugurating a new president here in the United States. Yay! And President Donald Trump has run on a platform of returning the country back to constitutional law, being a nation of laws, following the rule of law, as well as restoring the economy, bringing back jobs, and keeping the borders secure, and all that good stuff. And I believe that he will be able to do that. I think he's capable of doing that. I think he knows how to do that, and I think I feel very optimistic for the next 4 years. The Philippine news media is fond of comparing President Duterte to Donald Trump. And I just wanted to comment on that briefly. I disagree totally with that analogy. The reason that they do that is because both Donald Trump and Roddy Duterte are very outspoken and occasionally vulgar. And so because they just say what's on their mind, there's no cognitive filter processing, well, gee, should I really say that? Did I think that through? No, they just, bleh, there it is. And I think Donald Trump has learned, just since the election, really, how to be more presidential. And I think you'll see President Trump behaving differently, more presidential, if you will, than candidate Donald Trump was doing. Candidate Trump was trying to stir up the masses. But when he won the election, he began to settle down and be more presidential. Duterte, on the other hand, hasn't changed at all. If anything, he's become increasingly scary. And I think part of the explanation for that analogy is that some elements of the Philippine media are supporting Duterte, and they're trying to promote Duterte. So they describe him as sort of a maverick who is really a great man, and so by comparing him to Trump, they seek to elevate his stature. But I don't think it comes off well by anyone who really knows Donald Trump or has been following him. The two personalities are very, very different. Whereas Trump campaigned on following the Constitution and obeying the rule of law, Duterte has quite gleefully scorned his Constitution and made public proclamations that if the police departments suspect that you might be a drug addict or a drug pusher, then all they really have to do is leave a note beside your body and they're free to kill you. And not just on the streets, they go into people's homes and kill them in their homes. Last body count I saw was like 2,600. It was approximately 30 people per day since his election. And that's kind of scary. And so not only does he allow the people to be shot and killed on the streets or in their homes, but some of the police departments who are strong supporters of Duterte have actually gone into jail cells and murdered people in jail. There was a prominent Philippine mayor who was just recently shot to death in his prison cell in the southern part of the Philippines. I think it was in the Visayas. They went into his jail cell and murdered him. And what was Duterte's response? Instead of saying, I condemn this, I demand that all these extrajudicial killings come to a stop. No, he pardoned the police department who did that. He forgave them, pardoned them. Very recently, in the past few days, a Korean businessman who was living in the Philippines with his wife, he was arrested on an accusation of being a drug addict. And there's no evidence that he was a drug addict. But instead of putting him on trial or referring him to a rehab center, they demanded that his wife pay the police department a bribe of 8 million pesos. Well, the wife did come up with 5 million pesos, and she was going to pay the other 3 million, but she said, okay, I've given you 5, now give me my husband. And then word came out that, in fact, they had gone into his cell and strangled him. And then his body was cremated, and so all Korea got back was an urn with some ashes. And what was Duterte's response to that? He says, well, these are not my police. So his logic is flawed. His lack of empathy or concern for the Korean who was in the Philippines is appalling. He did not apologize to the wife. He did not apologize to Korea. He did not apologize to the United Nations. Quite the contrary. He condemned the United Nations for condemning him. He has threatened to kill members of the news media, especially ABS-CBN, who has been reporting his antics publicly. And he's threatened to have them killed. And so the free press in the Philippines is very apprehensive about going after Duterte. Duterte has bragged about the people he has murdered himself personally. He threw one victim out of a helicopter. He has personally murdered others when he was mayor of Davao. He has ordered hits on God knows how many people. And when some police officer somewhere in the Philippines tries to extort someone or commit murder in Duterte's name, he shrugs his shoulders and says, well, we have to stop the drugs. And yet Duterte himself is a drug addict. So he's addicted to, I forget what it's called, fentanyl or fentanyl, something like that. So he himself is a drug addict, and perhaps it is because of self-loathing. He hates the fact that he's addicted to this drug, so therefore he's projecting this hatred onto Filipinos who are drug addicts and telling police, go kill them. That might sound far-fetched to you, but I am a psychotherapist, and I can tell you projection is a very real phenomenon. When people see something within themselves and they hate it, they project it outwards and start hating it in other people and pointing fingers at other people, when really what they're doing is they're pointing fingers to themselves. But they can't bring themselves to verbalize it. Many times they can't even recognize that in their own mind. So the reason I bring this up, well, for one thing, today is Inauguration Day, and Donald Trump is being sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. And they do compare Duterte to Trump, but as I say, that's a very poor analogy. One respects the rule of law and the other ignores it and flaunts his disregard. But also because, frankly, Hazel and I have been talking about the wisdom of retiring to the Philippines, at least now during the Duterte administration, or if he was somehow replaced by Marcos, who would be just as bad as his father. Would that be safe for me as a white-skinned Kano? Would that be safe for Leilani? We have to think about our little girl. Hazel herself is not too concerned about it, but she is very concerned for me and for Leilani. And the police were just recently going around to Ayala, Alabang, I believe it was, going into the neighborhoods of the most wealthy Filipinos, distributing flyers discussing the extrajudicial killings. I don't know what the flyers said, but just the fact that the police can go into these gated communities and get into anyone's house, that should give pause to people like me who are not among the financial elites. So if the police can get to those guys, and this Korean businessman who was a well-respected businessman, they can get to him, arrest him on some trumped-up charge, and then murder him in the jail. Am I safe? Is Leilani safe? I don't know. And we never really thought about that. I am concerned now about the Philippine president and whether or not we would be wise to go there. Hazel and I have talked about waiting till the end of 2017, which is when my pension is supposed to start, the end of this year or the very beginning of next year, December or January. I'll have my pension coming in. And if we waited until March of 2018, then we could use our income tax return for airfare to fly us to the Philippines. But should we do that? Maybe we should wait till the end of 2017 and see what happens in the Philippines. There is a growing movement as Filipinos begin to wake up and say, wait a minute, Duterte is threatening martial law. We don't want martial law. The Philippine Army says they don't see a reason for martial law at this time, but they kind of hold it out there as a possibility, and Duterte has doubled their salaries. So I'm sure if Duterte declared martial law, the Philippine Army and Philippine National Police, they would support that. So where would we be in all of this? Would we be safe or would we be at risk? And if we're in the Philippines and I'm arrested, and how long would it take for the U.S. government to rescue me? Or would they rescue me? I don't think so. Well, I don't know about the Trump administration, but I know in the past 8 years there was no rush to rescue Americans who were arrested or held hostage in the Philippines. So this is a real concern. And I don't know. I think we're going to wait and see. Will the people of the Philippines wake up? Will they demand that he be removed? There's basically three major groups politically in the Philippines. There are those who support Duterte, those who oppose Duterte, and then there are those who are politically opposed, but they're kind of in the middle. They're not members of the Liberal Party, but they're not members of Duterte's party. They're members of other parties who would like to be in power themselves, but they're not taking sides. They're kind of on the fence. And it's very telling because there's a lot of people in the Philippines who just want to turn a blind eye to it. There are a lot of people in the Philippines who support it. Thankfully, there is a growing number of people in the Philippines who are opposed to it. And it's just a matter of time, I think, before the Filipinos rise up. We're still thinking about it now. Before, it was not so much a question of should we move, but when should we move? Now it's a question of should we move at all, or should we just stay here? And how long do we stay here? Do we stay here forever? Stay here for a year? Stay here for another 5 or 6 years until Duterte is out of office? We really don't know. We're scratching our heads trying to figure this out. So let me know what you think about it. Perhaps some of you are Duterte supporters. I hope not, but you might be. Most of my family in the Philippines, they're very much opposed to Duterte. And a lot of the people I follow on Facebook are opposed to Duterte. But as long as he's the president there, you know, he can pretty much say and do whatever he wants to say and do. And it's kind of scary. So those are my thoughts as of right now. On the good news side, because of the things Duterte says and does, the peso to dollar exchange rate has gone way up. It's been over 50 pesos to the dollar for 3 days in a row. That's really good for overseas foreign workers who are sending money to the Philippines. But it's also a sign that the Philippine economy is staggering under this guy, and it might be one of the factors that prompts people for change. So share your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Maybe it's all just talk and there's nothing to worry about. But I'm sure the widow of the Korean businessman would not say it's just talk. And I'm sure the widow of the mayor who was murdered in jail would say it's not just talk. And I'm sure the widows of all the people who were gunned down in the streets for allegedly being drug addicts or drug pushers, I'm sure they wouldn't say it's just talk. I mean, I'm all in favor of getting drugs off the street, but if someone is suspected of a crime, bring them into court, present the evidence, prove that they're guilty, and then render whatever punishment the law allows for that. Or send them to rehab, which would make more sense in my eyes. Me being a therapist, that's the way I would do it. Send them to rehab. But I don't know. It's a puzzle to us. Maybe you have some insight. If so, please share it in the comments below. And we thank you for watching. Stay tuned for our next vlog.
And when the way I just gave me Muffy, I was just staring at the tooth guy holding Muffy in my hand like this. When that was having me 4 years old too.
Yes, a church lady gave her Murphy, and so now they're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Leilani has her own channel, by the way. It's Our Leilani's Life.
And see how cute she is?
Very cute.
She's really cute for me.
Okay, well, thank you for watching.
And bye-bye.
And bye-bye.